going to do an explanation and demonstration on the ideal driver swing. So like I said before, driver swings are different than all the other swings in the golf game. With this, you try to hit up on the ball. So think about, with our irons, we make sure to hit down and have the bottom of our swing be after you hit the ball. So it kind of peeks out and makes that divot that you're looking for with this. And so with the driver swing, we kind of peek out at the bottom of our swing just before we hit the ball, and just on the upswing is when the ball will be struck. And driver is also a little bit different compared to all the other clubs, because with most of the other clubs we are hitting down on, so we put them closer to the center of our stance. With driver, we like to work it off the front of our toe here, just off the inside of your foot. Your front foot is where a lot of people like to hit it off. As you kind of progress into your game of golf, you kind of feel what feels right for you guys and where you want to play. Some players put it way up there in front of their foot. Some players not as much, or wherever it may be. It's really what feels comfortable for you guys. And so, same saddle like we said in the past, whatever grip you need to do. Same with making those V's, make sure they're pointing. And then the other big difference with the driver swing is to help influence getting up on the ball. When we set up to the ball, same shoulder width apart, we're going to make sure our shoulder, I didn't actually do it, we're going to make sure our shoulders tilt back at almost 45-degree angle, but not too much, but a little bit. And that'll help influence the swing upwards. Because if you're just kind of standing there flat, you're most likely going to hit down on the ball with your forward shoulder, too forward up. It needs to be a little more angled up. And then the big thing with drivers is when you get to the top, you want to make sure not to jump at it. You want to just kind of let your hands fall and go through the club swing and hit it. And the driver, it's really a big one that you want to watch the club hit the ball. A lot of people say, don't pick your head up, don't pick your head up. But I like to say watch the club hit the ball. Easier to think of it that way. Because if you give up too fast, and you start looking up right away, you can miss the ball, you can hit it on the heel, or the toe, wherever your hands are at in that position. If you think about staying down and through the ball, it'll be a lot easier for you guys. Chipping, when you swing, you're not trying to hit it that far, right? You just kind of do middle, back, and through. You're not, you never want to bring your swing all the way back. There's no need to have this really long swing. With the golf swing, the more condensed it is, the better it will be, the easier it's controllable throughout the swing. And so I'll kind of start with some simple golf knowledge terms. So when you're, so we're talking about different stuff. We're talking about loft of the club, right? So club's loft is how much degrees it is. Loft is like how straight up, down, straight up, or open it is. With wedges, they're more open. So a higher loft of clubs. Easier way to think about it is a higher loft. It'll go higher in the air, but it'll be shorter. So that's why wedges are really look like they're open. And then once you line up to the ball, if you guys can kind of stand, you want to stand in front of me here. So a lot of times we talk about squareness of club face. And so the club face is this right here. And when you're looking at it, to you, right, if you're looking at it, when it's like this, if it's to the right, that's open. If it's to the left, kind of, it's closed, and anything straight with the sole of the club, which is right here, the leading edge, when that's straight at the target, that's a neutral club face, and square, they like to call it. And really, that's a big thing about chipping, is getting the club square at impact, being able to bring it back and through, and making sure that club is square to your target at impact. And so chipping, the one thing I like to do is, when you start chipping out, you like to think of keeping a Y here, right? Keeping this triangle pattern between your two arms and your upper torso here. Keep that triangle. You don't want to break that triangle, because if you kind of go like this, it just leads to inconsistencies in the golf swing. So if you keep that triangle throughout the chip, it's nice and easier to bring it back. And that's a big thing we're going to work on today, is just keeping a nice, solid triangle, so you can bring it back and through nice and good. So with irons, first thing we're going to talk about really is the grip, to make sure you guys have the correct grip, because that'll really help make everything way easier to hit the club. So when you grip the club, you want to kind of have it through the palm of your hand, with your fingers wrapped around, and then you don't want your thumbs to be on top of the club like this. You want them to the side, and you kind of think about this V formation that's made with your hand, with your thumb and index finger, and that V will be pointing at your right shoulder. So then you want to, so it's kind of over like that, because if you're on top of the club like this, it's too much of a weak grip, and if you're too far over, it's too much of a strong grip, we call it, and that won't help the ball at all. So if you have the V pointing at your right shoulder, and then there's a couple different ways to grip. Most commonly for beginners, just the 10-finger grip, just kind of like a baseball grip, or there's an interlock grip like this, or an overlap, and then there's an interlocked grip like this. And just the differences helps that with 10 fingers sometimes, it's just the club face kind of go everywhere. With interlocked and the other ones, it helps keep everything more as one-piece construction to help keep the club square at impact. But whatever's most comfortable for you guys, probably just the 10 finger. It's no problem. And the same thing with the V, when you kind of put your thumb right into the center of your right palm, and then wrap everything over, and then put your right thumb on the left side of the club, making that V point at your right shoulder. Kind of get that there? Looks good with everybody. And then setting up for the shot, with iron shots, you kind of think about this line directly in the center of your body where your belt buckle's at. And the ball will never be behind that line. You want to put it it all depends on what iron you're hitting. When you're hitting the lower irons with like a 9, a pitching wedge, or an 8 iron, you're going to want it really close to that center line, just one ball in front of it. But as you move up to the longer irons, the 4s, the 5s, and 6s, you're going to want it up just a little bit to help when you swing through, because those clubs are longer in length. And so you put it in the center of your stance, and then same as we said with chipping before, bar still reaching up a little bit, comfortable there, feet apart. And so the biggest thing when you're hitting the irons with this is you don't want to think about, getting the club or getting the ball up in the air. And you don't even want to really focus on hitting the ball. You want to more focus on making a good swing through the ball and letting the club do the work. Because if you really focus on just trying to, knock that ball, it's not going to be that good. But if you work on a good swing through the ball, the club will do the work and get it up in the air most likely. So then same thing when you set up, just like that. And when you pull back the club, you want to think about this line through the target. Think about keeping the club head over that line as long as possible until your arms naturally pull it away. Because if you pull it right off that line right away, you're inside. If you're pulling it up like this, you're maybe too upright, getting all the way up here. It's hard to make the movement down. So focus on keeping it straight back on that line. Do that, and when you get to the top of the swing, you want to think about your hips rotating backwards as the club moves. And you almost feel power in your core, not with your arms. You don't want to think of just using your straight arms. You want to use your hips almost as one piece to here, and the arms extend a little bit longer. And easiest to do is just think about your left arm getting to a parallel position here, so you're not going too long. And if you break your elbow sometimes, it will lead to inconsistency. So keeping a straighter or firmer elbow will help get the ball or get the club right back through. And then you also hinge the wrist. And the big thing you want to focus on is when you're looking at the back of it, you want to open your hands up a little bit, because when you swing through, they'll naturally close again. So if you're looking at the top here and it's kind of hooded in, you need to be more open and more neutral here, and that'll help bring it down and through. Same thing, you can focus on the back of the ball when you're hitting the ball. That's a good focus point to look at that. Think about striking through the ball and just driving, impacting. It's called getting compression on the ball, because that's what will help get spin and help it get that really good distance out there. I'm going to explain how to putt, get that good putting stroke. So putting is similar to how we were talking about with chipping. You want to keep things really simple and quiet. So with putting, the grip, there's many different ways to grip a putter. I like to do this left hand low, and that just helps keep a solid line through my left arm all the way down to the putter. But whatever you grip it is no bottom, doesn't matter. Just still like you have the iron grip with the palm, the shaft going through the palm of your hand. And with putting, get your position, line up to the ball like you do, and you bend at the hips just a little bit. Maybe not sit down as much as you would with an iron, but a little bend at the hips, enough to get your eyes directly over the ball is what you're looking for. And then when you have the club in your hand, you want to make sure that the forearm is you keep your forearm at the same angle as the shaft, because that'll help keep it in one piece through it. Because if you were kind of like, if your arms are outstretched too much and the club is like that, it's going to be harder to do that. And so, when you lean over, you don't want to be reaching. Kind of your arms are going to be straight down at the putter. And once you're down at the putter, you make your stroke with keeping that Y that we've said before between your shoulders and your arms. And then that's what you do is you just rock your shoulders. There should be no movement in the hips, in the backward forward movement, in the knees. you stay really quiet and just all in the shoulders, rocking back and through. And then what we'll do with this here, this will help keep, think about when you're bringing it back so you don't rock too far inside or you're going outside, you want to keep it just on a straight path of back and through. So just like this, we'll see if I can make this one here. But just like that, back and through at a nice even pace. And the thing I like to think about with putting, it's all about what we call tempo. And the tempo is so you're not getting jerky, or like you were saying, Tanner, decelerating through the ball. And so some people think about it as a clock where they say, tick, tock, tick, tock. What I like to do is I like to set up to it and then count off a 1 at the hole, look at the hole 1, 2 at my ball, and back, and then 3 through the ball. So I go 1, 2, and 3. Just kind of keep a nice, even pace. So that'll help so you're not getting jerky at it or kind of hitting at it, stuff like that. It'll help keep this smoother and help roll the ball a lot smoother throughout the